Okay students, welcome to this chapter which is functions in PHP programming. This is the lesson that we're going to discuss today. So it's compared to other lessons, it's going to be a short lesson and it's going to be a quite very useful in your upcoming programs. Okay, so let's jump into the slide number 2. So this is what we're going to discuss today, right? So we already did the previous day's discussion, a recap of previous week discussion. We finished. So functions in PHP I'm going to teach you today. Arrays, if there is time left, we will look into this one, but today's main lesson is going to be on PHP functions and how to work with them. Okay, so I will be basically teaching you what do you mean by a function, why we use them, what are the advantages of using functions, and what are the methods to define functions, what do you mean by built-in functions, what do you mean by user-defined functions, so on and so forth. And we'll be doing some interesting questions as well, hands-on practicing, so it will be easy lesson for you to learn today. Okay, let's move on to the next slide, slide number 3. So what are functions and why we use them? So basically, if you take a function, function is going to be a piece of code, right? Piece of code, or it's a block of code, and that particular block of code will have a name written to that. Okay, it will have a name written to that, so we can make use of that. Okay, make use of that code again and again and again. So there are a lot of examples written or given in the upcoming slides. I will take you to that. So at the moment I don't want to confuse with the syntax and the code. So a function, you know, up to now we were writing PHP instructions, so it is also going to be a bunch of instructions. It's going to be a block, so it's going to have a syntax, a separate syntax, and that particular bunch of code or that block of code can be reused, it can be called, and we're going to make use of that, right? Then functions can either return values when called or can simply perform an operation without returning a value. So when we write majority of the functions, functions will require you to give them inputs, because in order to do the work, the function will require you to give inputs. Not all the time, but most of the time we give inputs. And some occasions, functions not only perform a valuable or a meaningful task, but also once it finishes its job, it returns a value as well. So it does a job as well as it returns a value. So we're going to see these kind of examples in the upcoming minutes. So I'm going to, once I walk through to the lesson, I will be demonstrating that as well. Okay, now the next one is going to be PHP has, if you take the PHP programming language, now currently we are using PHP 7 plus version. The latest version is, I think at the time of this video, is 7.4 is the version that we are using now. So according to that, now you have over 700 built-in functions in PHP. So it's a rich language. I mean, you can do so many things with this. So many built-in functions are there. At least we have learned few of them already. Now we're going to learn more today as well. So once this language is offering you this number of built-in functions, it becomes really powerful, and you can build very powerful programs, and it consumes really less time because it comes with built-in lot of functions. Apart from that, there are occasions that you need to write your own functions. Then I'll tell you, and I'll talk about that, why we need. Okay, apart from that, I hope you understood what is a function and why we use them. Then there are 2 links I have given, so please, after my session, please visit these 2 links and broaden your knowledge, because this is the official documentation page of the php.net website, which is the official website of PHP programming language, and this is the language where you're going to refer to all the built-in functions. Overall, what type of functions that you have, that's the first link. And function reference, it's a huge lesson, huge table of contents that they have, and you can just browse through that one and broaden your knowledge. And in upcoming lessons or in upcoming your future projects, if you do have any questions or doubts, please go to this link and browse through, and you can find the function and you can get a good understanding how it is functioning. Okay, Apart from that, right, let's go to the next slide, slide number 4. Right, why do we use functions, or why we should use functions? First of all, no one likes ad hoc code, which means we shouldn't have very unformatted code or here and there code which is going to be taking a lot of time for us to uh, learn as well as work with other things. So what we need is, we need better organization of our code, because normally you will write your own functions when you want, because when you need tasks which are repeatedly done, or code blocks that can be reused by several parts of your PHP scripts. So you will be thinking of breaking that portion into a function and putting it into a function, so it can be called or it can be used several times, not only in the same script but also it can be done by other scripts as well, which will be a huge help for you. Doing this coding part in this style makes one thing, that is, it gives better code organization, and functions allow us to group blocks of related code that perform a specific task together. So it, because every function that you build will do a specific task, so therefore it will make the code better organized in your projects. Okay, so meanwhile, while I'm demonstrating my projects, I'm going to show you one or two commercial projects that I have done. So I will quickly show them in this one. While I'm demonstrating, I'll show them, so you will understand how easy it is to maintain your code, better code organization. Number two is reusability. As I told you, once you develop your function, you can make use of the function any number of times that you want. So you don't have to again and again, you don't need to do the same code repeatedly. So you can make use of the code again and again without rewriting the code. Right. Next one is ease of maintenance. That is also much easier, because though the function is created once and used by several other places, it will be of course used by several other places and by several other scripts, but making modifications becomes much easier, because you haven't written the code in every script or in the same PHP script several places. No, it is not like that. It's just written in one place and it is called in many places. So when you want to do modifications, what you simply do is you make modifications in one place and one place only. So it becomes very easy for you to maintain the code, and it makes the project simple and small as well. So that is another good feature that you get in functions, or writing code in functions. When you are doing your projects and your assignments, I'm expecting you to do it in such a manner. Okay, next, slide number 5. So how to create a PHP functions, how to create PHP functions. So from this point onwards, I'm going to teach you how to create things. So I'm going to demonstrate that one. So I'll be sharing my screen as well, so to do the demonstration part. Right, so before we go to the screen sharing part, so take a look at this code. So it says below the topic, a simple PHP function without any parameters or arguments. Parameters are also called arguments. So if you take the syntax of the function, it looks like this. This is a direct example that you can see. It doesn't do much, but it covers the syntax part. So when you want to create a function, as I told you, it is a bunch of code, or it's a block of code. You can see the function will be created like this. There should be a function keyword like this. You have to use the function keyword first. After the function keyword, you have to use a name for the function. Make sure, because functions are created to perform a task or a useful task, always remember to use a verb for the name. Don't use just nouns. It doesn't make sense by the time you are making your program and when you are calling the programs. So please make a verb as the name of your function. Then opening closing parentheses are there. Opening closing parentheses is a must that you should write there, because even though it is accepting parameters or not accepting parameters, it's a must that we should use opening closing parentheses. It's a must. Okay, right. In the other examples we can see parameters also coming. Next, the opening curly brace will tell that here is the function is starting. Then you can have any number of instructions inside the function according to the task that you're doing or performing. At the bottom part, at the latter part of the code, that you can see a closing curly brace, which is the indication of end of the function. That is the end of the function. So start of the function, end of the function. So here I have written just an output statement, so echo. Then within double quotes I have given have a nice day, because our function name is greet the class, so it will just give us the output as have a nice day, right? Have a nice day. So we're going to learn how to code this, where to code this, how to call this one, right? Where to code this and how to code this one. So I'm going to demonstrate that to you. So I'll be sharing my screen as well with you. Right. I will create a project folder for us today. Chapter 4. I will create the first file called Functions Demo. Right, and as usual we will create the function PHP code here. Right. As a tradition or as a convention, PHP functions can be defined at the top of the page, or you can even start a PHP block here and you can create the code here as well. Right, so it's up to you, it's a personal preference. For the demonstration purpose, I'm going to use it over here. So I will create the function, first function. It says create the class. This is what we had, the function. This was the code that we had. Okay, so we have all the pieces, and you can see PHP is giving different colors for the commands I'm using. So function is a keyword, as you can remember, and this is the name of the function that I've given for my function. Open close parenthesis, open and closing curly braces, and my instruction. It's a very simple one to do. Right, now this is a function. Okay, right, so when I execute my code in, so let's go to my project, let's go to the chapter 4. Right, so I'm going to click on the link. So there's a page is blank, just very blank page. Right, so in order to make this one work, or if the function you want to use that one, so we have to call the function. Okay, in order to call the function, how you do that is simply you mention the name of the function along with opening closing parenthesis and a set of and with a semicolon like this. So you say greet the class, open close parenthesis and semicolon. So this is how you call the function. Since the function is not requesting or requiring any, it is not requiring any parameters, I am not using any parameters, I am not sending any parameters. So I'll save the project, go back to the project, and we'll refresh the code and see what happens. As you can see, have a nice day. This is the greeting comes on the message, comes on the page, message comes on the page. And you can have your ordinary PHP code here, like, right, if you just type like this, then that part can just work along with your PHP code, no problem. Okay, no problem. And the code that you want to do, you can call it anytime, any number of times also possible. Now when I refresh this one, you can see it's working several times. Now you can see there is a problem with the formattings. It doesn't come to the new line. Okay, right, whatever the greeting message that we put, let's say it should be in a new line, and let's say the color should be in some color, right? So we can put, it should come in a BR code, and here also you can put a BR code. And let's say we want, because I'm showing that we can do modification only once, and all the places it will show its effect. We'll just make the code color in green color. Right, let's give it a try and see how it looks. Now if you'll see, only one, okay, green is not visible, I think much visible. Okay, so you can put a color which is, there you go, it's much visible, and the formatting has been applied to all the places, and it's working fine. So that's how it works. So if when you want to make modifications, you make the modification only once, and how many number of times you want to call them, you can simply call them like this. So this is the very basic type of function that we code, or how we create a function, PHP function. So I hope you got a good understanding of that. I hope you got a good understanding of that, right? So I will be doing the other examples, upcoming modifications to the same program, but I will save them as function demo 1, 2, 3, 4. So you will have all the functions in upcoming examples that I'm going to save. After that, you can download it from my Google Drive. Okay. Let's move on to the next one. So I'm going to now we are in the next slide. Let's go to the slide number 6. Then slide number 6 shows how to call a PHP function. Previously I didn't want to show you this one, so because we wanted to discuss it, so this is there. So when you go through the slides, it will be reminding you how it is done. So that is why I added here. So the function is there, you can code it, and when you want to call that one, when you want to call the function, just give the name of the function, and along with opening closing parenthesis, if necessary you can give the parameters. In this case we don't have any parameters, so that's what this slide discusses, what we discussed just now. Right, the next part, how to create PHP functions, a PHP function with parameters or arguments. Right, so we're going to create this function with parameters. So we're going to have values given to the function, or values given to that code segment, and it will process that input, or the values that we're going to give it to the program is going to process, or that function is going to process. Most of the functions that we create will require you to send 1 or 2 parameters according to the task or type of task that they are doing, and you will be using this real world functions in no time when you are doing your projects. Okay, now when it comes to this kind of functions, as I told you, function keyword I have used, and the name of the function. Again, here we are hoping to add 2 values together, 2 numbers together. So I am making use of a verb, add numbers. So making use of a verb, and open parenthesis, and I'm saying $n1 $n2. Simply, when we use a variable, we use a $. So here n1 and n2 are actually just two local variables. At the same time, they are saying that it is representing the incoming two values. So when I'm running or when I'm executing the code, you will better understand this one, what n1 represents and what n2 represents. So that's what the syntax is about here. You can separate the arguments by using commas. Okay, right, inside the code that you can see, a simple calculation has been done. n1 is added with n2 and it will produce the result as dot. So this is what's going to happen. n1 is added with n2. Then in the next line we are displaying the output, and we are making use of the double quote facility. So inside the double quotes, if we use a variable, it will be processed and it will be displayed. So we don't have to use the concatenation operator and make the code lengthier. This short way will work fine for us. Okay, let's try with the program. Right, so I'm going to create another program. So I will duplicate this one and I will say demo 2. Right, so I'm going to delete this piece and I will write my function here. So when I finish teaching you all the functions, the last program will have 4 functions written inside one program. Okay, so I'm going to say function add numbers, then I can say n1 n2. Always it need not to be n1 n2, it could be a comma b. According to the type of program that you're performing, you can give meaningful names for your parameters. Okay, so I'm going to say dot is assigned to n1 is added with n2. So I can display the like this. So that's the code. So that just doing this one is not enough, we need to call this one. So we'll say add numbers, and within brackets you can give any numbers that you like, numbers, whole numbers, numbers with fractions, no problem. So we will call once like this and test the program. You can see total is 132. It's giving you the answer. Let's give it 2 typical numbers. Right, we'll again call this one. So this time we will call a different values, 2.5, 0 point, some number like this. It'll add that. Right, so it will add those 2 values as well. There we go, the answer is coming. So you can simply do that. Even negative values, everything will work fine. So even that will work fine. Okay, hope you understand that one. So so at this time in line number 22, when you are calling the function, you are naming the name of the function here, add function, so the computer knows which function to call, this function to be called, and it will accept 74 and 58. These are the 2 inputs that we give. By the time the program is working, n1 will represent 74, n2 will represent 58. So that is what the parameters is all about. Okay, okay, so that's about the second type of function. Okay, a parameter accepting function, and how to code that one and how to call the function. Okay, now there are occasions where we need to do, apart from just sending 2 parameters and accepting the parameters and doing a work, there are some more work to be done at some occasions. So we will move on to the other examples as well. Okay, so I'm going to go to the next one. So the next one is going to be how to create PHP functions. In this one, a PHP function with parameters, arguments, and returns a value. we're not going to do the task only, but also we're going to return the value as well. So in order to do this one, this method of function, take a look at this one. It's much easier. It says name of the function, right after the keyword function, name of the function, and if the function is requesting you to give inputs, then the inputs can be mentioned like this, and the function starts here. And this is a simple function. When you give 3 numbers to the program is going to find the average of the numbers given. And you can see there is a error in this code that I have done. I have found the total here, not the average. In order to do the average, after adding these 3 values together, it need to be divided by 3. Let's do that in our coding now, right? Okay. Right, I will be duplicating again. Right, so the next type of function I'm going to use, I'm going to code it here, function get average. Now when you code a function, it not only does the job but also it returns a value. We usually use the word get in front of this. It's a convention that programmers we use that. So get in front of that verb we use, so it depicts that it does the job as well as it gives you a value back, right? So for this program we will give 3 values. Sorry. A, B, C, there are 3 values I'm giving, and let's calculate the average. So A plus B plus C and everything divided by 3. So this will give you the average, and we are not going to do an echo here. No, we're not going to display this one. We're going to make use of this calculated value, this answer, somewhere else in our program. So for that reason, we're going to return the figure. So we say return, and we can say simply average. So that's all the code. You can write this one in one line also. Simply you can say return, like this also you can code, right? In a real program I would do like this, but for the learning purpose we will keep it a simple code like this. Okay, calculate the average, then return the average. Right, now what's happening is we need to test this one and see how it's done. Right, now when you want to call a function, I ask you to just give the name of the function, right? So let's say get average of these 3 values. So we will give a easy value, so we know the exact answer is going to be 75. Right, now we are calling the function here. Actually we are calling the function. Let's see what will be the output of this program. As you can see, there is no output on the screen here. There's the reason for that. It is returning a value. Even in the source code, if you view, nothing has come, right? There's nothing has come. There's a reason for that. The reason is when a value is returned, either you have to display that using an echo command like this. If you display that using an echo command, it will be visible on the screen like this. See, then only it is coming to the source code, right? So it is visible like that. Or else what you need to do is you need to store it in a variable. Let's use a different variable. We'll use a variable like x, right? So get average, this is going to, whatever the value is going to get returned from here, get stored here. Now I'm going to use some different values here. So let's use some different values: 85, 64, 51, 61, right? So what happens is these 3 values will be taken, added together, and they will be divided by 3, and the answer what is obtained will be returned. Line number 24 is returning the answer. Once it is returning the answer, whatever the value you calculated will be returned, which means when you use it in an assignment operator, this function can actually return that value so that it can be stored in a variable or it can be used in a calculation, right? So I can put an echo command here and I can say average is I can simply say like this. Now when you refresh this code, it says average is 70. So that's how the returning function works, right? So function, that is how it is working, right? So this is a function where it not only does the job, it can return the value as well. So it can return the value as well. So it will be useful in programs like, for example, you want to send the marks of 3 subjects, get the average, then you want to find out whether he is eligible for something or not eligible. So that returned average, you can use that for further calculations in your program. So that is why we make use of functions that will help you build your programs successfully. Let me tell you another occasion where you can use, let's say you can validate users. So you give the username, password, and you can check whether there is a valid user, whether he can log in or whether he can't log in. You can do that. You can use the validations. You can validate values also in a HTML form using functions if you like. So there are enormous places that you can use. So these two styles are very common: accepting parameters and doing the job, and accepting parameters, doing the job, as well as returning a value. That's the slight difference between the previous example and this example. It is not only doing the job, but also it is returning a value. So it can be assigned in another place, or it can be directly called in a function or in an expression. So that's what it is about. So that's what it's all about, the functions which can return a value. Right, let's move on to the next part. So we learnt about a brief function which does not accept parameters. We learnt about functions that accept parameters. Then we learnt about functions that accept parameters, as well as not only doing the job but also returning the value as well. So this is something very useful. Okay, next one is going to be an interesting function. So there's a type of function that you can define in PHP called functions with optional arguments. Right, so I will demonstrate this one when I'm programming and I'm demonstrating this to you. Okay, so the coding is the code segment has been given here. So just take a look at this one. Function, the name of the function is given, one parameter, next parameter, and the last parameter. Only the difference for the last parameter, you can see, which I put in red color, is that it is not only the name of the parameter or name of the function is given, but also it is given a default value. That's what it is. That's the difference between from other programs, right? So I have, by default, I have given values like this. So inside this one there's a easy code I have done. So actually this function, what I'm doing is I'm going to pass in a text. I'm going to tell the color of the text. I'm going to tell the size of the text. So the my decorate text function could be able to do what I'm requesting. So again and again, not writing these codes or not writing these CSS codes again and again, I can simply automate the job by using a function like this. So that's the job of this particular function that I have written. So let's go to the code window and practice this with a real example and see. I will be duplicating this one again. So it's going to be the fourth one, right? So let me delete this piece. Function. Then I'm going to say decorate text. So you need to you can first pass in the text, then you can pass in the color, then you can pass in the size. Now see, I am not giving this value, default value, I'm not going to give, and I'm going to show you what is the difference between not giving and giving. Right, so we're going to say inside that one we can do the coding part. Right, let's code like this. Echo, we need a span tag, children. Then we're going to give echo, we print that, and here I'm going to use the HTML and CSS style. So I will say color colon, then whatever the color that we have taken, and I'm going to say font dash size, font dash size. I'm going to give $sign size, then semicolon. Right, this is how I have given the code in, right? So let's give it a test for this program and see. So I'm going to call the function from my script. Just I'm going to call the function. So when I want to call the function, I will give like this, decorate text. So we will tell what is the text to decorate. We'll say PHP, then we'll give what's the color, let's give blue color, then what is the size of the font, so we will give 25px. okay, right, so let's test this on the browser and see. So let's open the program. There we go, PHP is displayed in blue. I'll show you the 100% of the browser view. So here, this is how it looks. So text looks a little bit bigger than the ordinary text, and it's in blue color, right? Right, now what I'm going to do is, when you call a function, and if the function is accepting parameters, and if you forget or if you miss a parameter, then this is going to be a problem. So when you refresh the code, see what happens. There's a fatal error, which is beyond that point the code cannot execute. So it's a total failure of your code, right? So this is a code problem, right? Because you are not giving exact number of parameters. So it says 2 arguments to function. So 2 passed in, actually 3 is expected, you are passing in 2. That's the problem. Then only way to fix that one is by giving a value here, right? So right, so but what if you are doing a program, you just want to tell what the text and what the color of the text, that's all. You don't want to bother about the size of the text. If you don't tell the size of the text, computer should automatically figure it out, and it should put the default font size, let's say, which is 12. So if you want to do such kind of a thing, we can make use of this program, right? So I'm going to call this one 2 times so you can see that. Right, I will call this once again. Let's say here we'll type Java, and here we shall not give the size, but we will make it work by giving here the third parameter, which is the size. I'm going to give the assignment operator, then I'm going to give, in double quotes, I'm going to give 12px, which means in case if you do not give the third parameter a value, computer will decide it on its own. It's going to decide the value for the size is going to be 12. So that's the idea of this optional arguments. It's quite useful when you're doing your projects, and it'll be useful. I have used this one in today's exercises as well. You can make use of that one. Right, let's give it a try on the screen, and let's refresh the code. There we go. So this is the 100% view. So there we go. I think I can put a different color for this. Right, there we go. So I'll zoom in so you can see the difference. So this is in 45, I think. Yeah, 45 font size. This is in 12 font size. So that's how it works. So if you want, you can just see the source code as well. Source code is like this. This is the code has come. So we have made our PHP code to generate this piece of code. Right. So that's how it's been done. Right. So those are the basic parts of the PHP functions. There are 4 types of functions that we learnt. Alright. Right, so let's move on to the next slide. So there's a task I'm giving you. You can do this task, right? So the task is about, I will be demonstrating how to do this one to you. Create a PHP function to draw a HTML table with specified number of rows and columns. Rows and columns must be mentioned by the time the function is called. A sample how to call the function is also given. So number of rows is going to be 6 and number of columns is going to be 4. 24 cells will be there in your project. Okay, so that's how it should be, right? So you should be able to do that. So if you give 10, 10, there should be a table should get created with 100 cells. So I want you to do this one now. Right, let's see how this can be done. Okay, so same project, I will extend this project. Let's go to a new program. Right, so let's duplicate that into 5, and in the 5th one I'm going to delete all the functions. I'm not going to have any of these things. We'll do it from scratch. Right, now first of all we need to have a function called create table, right? And we need to mention how many rows and how many columns, right? How many rows and how many columns. So I'm going to mention as rows comma columns. Right, now we need to make sure first of all we display the table tag. These kind of examples will be very useful for you to do when you're doing your database programs. You can show the results properly. We will be doing those kind of examples in upcoming classes. So I will say I don't have to give anything right for here because I'm going to use a style sheet separately. Right, then important is I'm going to tell how many rows I need and how many columns I need. Okay, I'll make use of the paintbrush as well to explain that. If necessary, I will make use of this one. Like when I want to have a table drawn, if I want a table like this, where I want 3 rows, 4 columns, like this. So how this is going to work, right? Now if you take a look at this particular table here what I've drawn, you can see 1, 2, 3, these are rows. Okay, and 1, 2, 3, 4 columns. 1, 2, 3, 4 columns, right? So you should understand each time we can create a cell, right? We can start doing a cell by cell by cell by cell we can do. So one row is done, then we can start the next row, then one cell, another cell, another cell, another cell done. Second row is also done, then the third start we can do like this. So if you take a look at this one, you should understand there is a repetition going on. What is the repetition? There are 2 things going on. One is creating a cell. Actually here here we have to have 12 cells in this program, 3 by 4, right? So then it's 12. And after you finish in one row, if you take one row here, this is one row. In one row we have 4 cells. which means after doing this one for the four times, again a new row should be started. In order to start a row in HTML, tr is the tag. In order to create a cell, table cell, td is the tag. So we're going to make use of these two tags along with PHP repetition structures. I will be using for loops to do this one. I'm going to use a main loop to control the rows like this. In this way, in order to go, I'm going to use one loop, and inside each table row, in order to print all the cells, I will be using another repetition, which is another for loop. So I'm going to use a loop inside another loop in order to achieve this structure. So let's see how it can be done. Right, so first of all, I'm going to say for, right, and I will create a variable I is assigned to 0 and I is less than the number of rows. So if you say 5, it will work from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 times it will work. And I should be incremented by 1 each time. So this is the loop which can create 6 according to the number of rows you are mentioning, it can do. So what it should print or what should it give is this. That's all it does. Okay, it creates this one. Okay, right, let me demonstrate this to you with the program output. Okay, it's not echo. Create table will give a easy one, which is 3 rows by 4 columns, what I put on paintbrush now. So we will create that table and see how it looks. Now there's an error in line number 12. Let's fix that. How I suppose here I said row. Let's fix that. Yes. Right, now see there is no output, proper output there. We'll see the source code. You see table has been defined. 1 row, second row, third row has been created. See, okay, so the formattings are not properly coming. So if you want the formattings also, then you need to have so one row, another row is coming. Right, so what we need to do is inside this one we need to create some echo. We need to create like this. Like this. So this is actually ridiculous to do like this. I'm not going to do this code like that. 4 times I'm going to code like that. So for that I'm going to again use, so if I do like that, see this one, you will get like this, right? It's getting you're getting your table like this, right? Borders are not there, but you can see that you are getting the work done. Right, let's see how we can do that with a easier way. Right, so I'm going to create another loop. Now we are inside the main loop, which is I loop. I'm going to create another loop which is for j is assign the value 0, j is less than calls, then j plus plus. Right, now here I'm going to print echo one pair of td only. So inside we should print something. So we will print the value of I and j, right? So we will say $sign I, we will say comma $sign j. So when you refresh this, you'll get some values, right? It's a bit confusing. We'll just leave this one and we will put something like a X there. So you'll see it's something like this. Okay, seems easy, right? I can give something like this. Border is assign the value 1. So you will see it's really ugly, but we can do the formattings, don't worry. So it's giving you the values like that, right? So as I mentioned, it's working perfect, right? So if you give a different table, which means if you give a different figure here, let's give 25 cells table 5 by 5. So you'll get a table created like that, right? Right, let's put a small CSS code for this to format the one. Right, let's put a small CSS code here. Right, I already created the code to save the time. Right, it's nothing much. Border is collapsing and box sizing, border box. I just gave some values, right? So let's try this, and there we go. It's original size. So the table comes like this. Okay, it's getting created like this. So this is what I wanted you to create. Okay, so we mentioned the number of this one, number of column rows and columns table should be able to get created using a function. This will be really useful. You can show the results of a search results and all, you can show like this. This is really useful when you're building your real applications, right? So that is one example I just gave you how to do this one. Okay, hope you understood this and how to do this part. Okay, please practice all these things after the sessions, right? On to the next part of the lesson, I think, which is another exercise. So task 1, code is, I will upload the code to the Google Drive. You can download that. It will be there in the video's description. Task 2, again it's a simple thing, and here you can make use of your knowledge in optional parameters, optional arguments as well. You know, 26 is a value you can easily divide by 2, and in the alphabet, English alphabet, you have 26 letters, then we can display them all. So I'm asking you to make a table to do this one. This is how you should be able to do this. So there should be 2 rows and 13 columns, 2 rows and 13 columns, and in each cell an alphabet should be displayed. A, B, C, D up to Z should be displayed. You might be wondering how to display the alphabets, right? Okay, now let me show you a built-in function available in PHP which can do that for you. So it's much easier for you to do, right? Okay, in this program, before this, let me do that. If you say echo and if you give CHR, it will display a character value. If you give CHR, this is a built-in function, and I am going to give a number here. For example, if I give a number like something like let's say I'm giving a number like, and a random number I can give like 251, and we'll see what is the output, right? Okay, let's see the output. There's just a symbol like this is coming, like so. If you give a value like 65, which is equivalent to capital A, is equivalent to capital A. Okay, if you give 97, I guess 97 should be simple A, right? Okay, so 65 is capital A, then 7 is C. Okay, 67 is C. So if you think of this, this is a clue for you, right? So using this one, you can solve that example. I'll give you 5 minutes to try. Please try. Then after that I will be showing you once again. Right, I'll show you how it's done with the code example. We can make use of this same code, right? And I'll do some slight modifications and I'll show you how it's done. Let me copy this code. Let me paste that. Let's say create alphabet table, right? Create alphabet table. So we need to give rows and columns in this program, or without rows and columns also you can do, but in that case every time that we're going to create, it's going to be a 2 by 13 table, right? In this program it is possible for us to have different size, but only the first 25 letters or up to the letters it's going to get displayed. This is what's going to happen. See, now this code is same, right? Now see, create alphabet table, same code. I have not changed anything. Here I have put X. Instead of X, I need to display something. So what is that something? We will see. Okay, right. So I'm going to temporarily stop the text like this. I'm going to, inside these two, I'm going to call chr. Here I need to call first time 65, next 66, next 67, something like that. You can do that easily. 1 2 3 4, like you can do. So I'm going to use a data item or a variable for that. So outside the loop I will define that. So like count, and we'll start it from 65, not 1, please. Right, I'm going to give here chr count, right? So what will happen is it will use that value, then it will print the corresponding character, right? So after that we will increment count by 1, so count plus plus. So this is the code I'm adding, right? Okay, now let's move on to the latter part of the program, right? So we can do this. The last one, right? We'll put a, sorry, we'll mention this one as right, alphabet table with PHP function. So I'm going to call create alphabet table like this. So I'm going to say 2 comma 13. Okay, 2 comma 13. This will work fine, and this will work, I think it should work perfect. Let's refresh that and see whether we are getting such kind of a table. Yes, get a table like this. You can see see alphabet table with PHP function. So just in 2 rows I added, so you can evenly display that. That's why I added 2 rows. So this comes like this. Okay, suppose if it starts from 97, or you can do that, echo here if you change this to 97, you can have the alphabets in simple letters, and there we go, like this we can have it. Okay, right, I'll leave that back to 65. Now let's say we want just to create an alphabet table. We are not worried about how many rows and how many columns, like. So what we can do is simply by default we can give some values here. We can give a value like 2, and here I can give 13. I can always give it and keep it. So in case if someone just want to create an alphabet table, they can create like this. So without any parameters, you can simply create that. It going to give the same result. As you can see, the same result is given. As well as if you want to give something like this, like say 6 comma 6, now it's going to give you a table which is 36 in size. So what will happen is um, it will give you 36 cells, and remaining cells will have other symbols. That's up to 26 characters we do have. Then after 97 only are the other characters starting. So since we have more cells in the table, other cells are going to give symbols like this. So if you want to experiment that, you can do a big table like this, maybe 10 by let's say 100 by, we'll give 100 by 10. So we can have a huge one, right? Taking some time, got it created. So it's going to display a lot of symbols. Yeah, some symbols we do have, some symbols we don't have. So you can look at them, right, like this. So where the symbols are there, it's possible it's displaying, right? And in a place also you have an alphabet. If you display the value of count, you can find out what that number is. Right. Okay, hope you got an idea about that. Okay, right. So we made use of the optional arguments as well with this example and in this exercise, right? Okay, so these two things you should have done, right? So I will be uploading one or two more questions to the Google Drive. So in the quiz section you will find that one. Please do that one as well, right? Fine. Now since we learnt the user defined functions, which are the functions which we wrote to do our custom tasks or the jobs that we could do, now let's take a few functions which are available in PHP itself, and it could be useful for us in our projects, in our upcoming projects. It could be useful in upcoming projects. The first one is called isNumeric. Okay, isNumeric. So when an input is given, there is no restriction. The user can give an input value with alphanumerics or numerics or only alphabets. So in this case, you can make sure the given input is having numeric values only or non-numeric values. Will be really useful before conducting calculations. So this function is a built-in function in PHP, and let's see how it works. So I have given the sample code here. So this is itself, you can take a look at it, how to write. Because it returns a true or false value, we have directly used inside an if condition. So if within the opening closing parenthesis of the if, you can see I have used isNumeric. It's a built-in function, isNumeric. Within brackets, within parentheses, within double quotations, you can give your value, or if the value is received from the keyboard or value is received from the front end text fields, you can pass in. When we are practicing in upcoming lessons, we can do that. So once you give a value like this, if it having only numbers, even numbers with decimal places are valid, it will display true, otherwise it will display not true, false. Okay, so that is what the example is given. Let me quickly demonstrate that to you. Okay, I will create a new project file for you. PHP inbuilt functions. Right, now let's try that one. The code that I did, if you say is numeric, right. Instead of giving directly double quotations, I'm going to give my variable here. So for the variable, I'll store a value here. Variable, you can give any number that you like, but inside double quotations, so that it's a text value. So I will say echo, let's say echo true, otherwise false. Okay, true or false. So let's test this one. The function that we are learning is numeric. So let's test with the program. Right, there we go, it says true. Right, now let's give a number with decimal places. Right, so when you refresh the page, same answer, true. Now let's try something like PHP 23, and it says false. So you can make use of this one to do validations in your program. So this is one built-in function that we should know. Okay, right, after that there's another one we're going to learn, which is going to be number format. This is quite handy because when you do calculations, and especially when you do divisions, you get decimal places. And you might get decimal places which are more than 2. In those occasions, you want to limit the number of decimal places to 2. So how we can do that one is simply like calling a function. Number format is the name of the function. Number format, with parenthesis, first parameter is the number that you are formatting, the number actually with the decimal places, then put a comma and tell how many decimal places that you want, simply like that. Instead of a direct number you give there, you can even perform a calculation like this. I have given here 10 divided by 3, so the answer 3.3333. So but I want only 2 decimal places, so the output comes like this. And here I have given 25.7984 decimal places, 2 decimal places, so it rounds the figure and gives 25.80, has given like that. Right, so let's experiment this with our code. Right, so I'm going to directly do that. So I'm going to do number underscore format, so you can give a number that you prefer, 25 point, so like this number, and you can give the decimal places. Let's give 2 and see the output. There we go, 25.79 is the answer. Right, let's try a different one. Let's take a calculation. Okay, right, so we'll say y is assigned to let's say 42 divided by 2.9. it will give you an answer. So we want to round it to two decimal places, so the answer is very easy. Echo is a number format, you say the number to be formatted, and you will simply say how many decimal places you want. If you want 5 decimal places, instead of 2, give 5. Okay, so we will put a br. There we go, the answer is coming, and it is limited to 2 decimal places, and we will see the answer without rounding. Okay, I'm sorry. So with that number format and without the number format, it's coming like that. Yeah, okay, this is the answers coming like this. Earlier it didn't get saved, children. There we go, see 14 point, there's a big decimal places coming, so it got formatted to 2 decimal places. So that's another one you can make use of. Okay, let's go to the next part. It's another built-in function. This is a quite useful function again, which is you'll be most probably in every project like you'll be using this one, and you will be working with database programming. This is because very important. This is really useful when you're doing database programs, right? And down here I have given the rest of the functions. Please refer this one. The link has been given to you, right? php.net manual English, the function date.php. There are so many ways that you can format a text. So the date function gives you the current system date, so it's really useful, and you can configure this to your local time as well. I'll teach you those things in a database lesson maybe. So simply how you do that is echo, call the function date, within opening closing parenthesis you will say capital Y, which will give you year in 4 digits, simple M, which will give you the month in 2 digits, which means with a leading 0, even the month is 1 2 3 up to 9, it will give you 0, in leading 0 will be given, and dash D will give the date also with the leading 0. So that is what this formatting is important. This is the most useful one that we need. Why I use this syntax here? Because this is the usual syntax that we normally send the values to the MySQL database or MariaDB database. This is what the values that we send. Year in digits, month in 2 digits, date in 2 digits. That's how we do that. That is why I took the same format here. Then another format here I have given, only the difference is you can see instead of simple D I have used a simple J, which means the date will be displayed in single digit if it is less than 10. So that's the difference between those two. So let's test that one with a code. So I'm going to echo, so I'll say date within single quotes. I will say capital Y dash simple M dash simple D. So this will give 2020 05-05. Today is May 5th. So there we go, the date is properly coming. So sometimes you want to put copyright then 2020, so you can make use of that. So I'll show you how to do that. So in your project, let's say in our real project we want to do, let's say we in footer we want we want copyright to be displayed, and you will put 2020 something like this and the copyright symbol, right? Okay, so it'll be fine. You'll get the footer like this, but the problem is this won't automatically change. Year after it won't automatically change. The problem is this is the direct value that we have given. So in simply give a PHP code like this, echo date single quotes capital Y, that's all. So this will solve that problem. So this gives the same result, but if the year is changing, then it will change the values automatically. So that will be a practical use of that particular function that you are learning. Okay, hope you understood and hope you find that PHP function. Okay, so that comes to the end of our tutorial of today. So if you have any questions, leave the questions in the comment section below, and for the downloads and the files and things, please refer the description, and I have given all the links in the video's description. Okay, so if you like the video, give a thumbs up and share with your friends, and please subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much. See you in the next tutorial.